warning from the Ukraine president that Russian missiles could hit NATO territory following an attack near the Polish border.
I repeat again, if you do not close our sky, it is only a matter of time before Russian missiles fall on your territory, NATO territory, on the homes of citizens of NATO countries.
And reports just reaching us of at least one person dead, 3 wounded after a Russian explosive hit a residential building in the capital of Kiev. New drone footage shows the aftermath of an attack in Mariupol as the Red Cross pleads for a ceasefire in the besieged city. Poland struggles as refugees fleeing the war keep coming, while 21 Ukrainian children with cancer arrive in the UK for life-saving treatment. This morning, where reports are just reaching us of at least one person dead, 3 wounded after a Russian explosive hit a residential building in the capital. Let's take you through the other main developments so far this morning. Ukraine's president has reiterated his call for NATO to impose a no-fly zone after a Russian strike killed 35 people on a military base 15 miles, 12-minute drive from the Polish border. Talks take place today between Chinese and US diplomats amid reports Russia has asked for military equipment from Beijing. A Russian negotiator says there has been substantial progress in talks with Ukraine and draft agreements could be reached soon. Further negotiations continue today. And 21 Ukrainian children with cancer have landed in the UK for treatment. The Health Secretary Sajid Javid will be here in just a moment to discuss that. First, our US correspondent Greg Milam has this report.
If the Russians did expect to be welcomed with open arms in Ukraine's cities, the reality must have been sobering. Demonstrators in the southern city of Kherson marching in protest at their occupation. Go home, they chant at the military convoy. The response, gunfire from Russian soldiers, warning shots at people who simply don't want them there. It isn't just civilians offering defiance. In the city of Mariupol, under siege for so long since the invasion began, the Ukrainian military released these drone pictures of what they say is an attack on Russian armoured vehicles. And the resistance continues elsewhere too, as the elderly are helped out of Irpin on the outskirts of Kiev. The mayor estimates 10,000 people have stayed behind. 70% of our city is now Ukrainian territory, he says. 30% is controlled by Russian occupiers. But we're doing everything to liberate 100% of our city. It's to the west that a new front could be of greatest concern, the attack on a training base on the doorstep of Poland and, by extension, NATO. Ukraine's president says the strike should be a wake-up call to the West.
I repeat again, if you do not close our sky, it is only a matter of time before Russian missiles fall on your territory, NATO territory, on the homes of citizens of NATO countries.
On the ground, it was another night of anxiety. In the city of Lviv, they sheltered in a hotel basement. There is hope that more peace talks could bring relief, but few believe that will come anytime soon. Greg Milam, Sky News.
At this site, the building still smoking. At about 5 a.m. this morning, this huge residential block was hit by a round of artillery shells. We're in the north of the city. That's only 7 miles from the city centre. They're still trying to retrieve their belongings. We believe all the people have been taken out. We're not sure about the injuries or the deaths, but this is quite clearly a residential, very much a residential area, right in the heart of a whole group of housing, right next to a school. That's the playground and the school next door to it. So this is absolutely nowhere near anything that would constitute a military target. The fire engines are about 5 or 6 fire engines who've been trying to get people out. We've spoken to some of the residents inside, one of whom said he had to carry his 84-year-old mother out, who had been cut from you can see what it's done to the building. Imagine if you're inside that, still sleeping, as most people would have been at 5 o'clock this morning. We've seen a number of the residents who once lived inside this block going inside with fire people trying to gather up whatever they can, the few possessions that might still be intact. Looking inside these windows, you can see a glimpse of, you know, ordinary people's lives who were just sleeping there, waking up to another morning. We know that this is the prize for the Russians. We know that the Russian military sees capturing the capital as key to their military plans, because the president has stayed here, the government is here, and we've seen over the past 24, 48 hours that there's someone else coming out there just picking up their belongings and coming out. A lot of these people still very much in shock, but still showing the resilience that we've seen throughout this, Kay. There you go, someone else coming out. And these scenes have been unfolding for the past few hours, and I mean, pretty heart-wrenching. You know, they're just grabbing whatever they can. In some cases, food. In some cases, bits of belongings. Sometimes just clothes, being helped by soldiers and civil defence and fire people. I was going on to say that we know that in Melitopol we saw the capturing of the mayor, which President Zelensky sees as excuse me, ma'am, do you speak English? No, a lot of these people are still very much in shock and not wanting to talk. We've seen a number of them coming out crying. But the man that we spoke to, who was happy to talk to us, was extremely defiant and saying that, again, urging the international community, particularly the West, to help them more with weapons, to help them with closing the skies, which they see is key to turning this whole war.
From the Mariupol maternity hospital, this lady being carried out on a stretcher after that bombing of the hospital. We hear that the baby, I can't believe this story, the baby has died during the caesarean section, and mum has now also died as well. The Russians saying it's fake news.
That is absolutely tragic news. We know that, very sadly, the Russian military appears to be targeting places like hospitals and schools. The hospital, if you remember, that we reported from a couple of days ago, right in the northeast of Kiev, spoke to the doctor overnight there. You saw a number of soldiers coming in there who had been hit. They have withdrawn from that hospital now and have come further into the centre of the capital, because the hospital also came under attack and they had to withdraw and shut down that facility. So I think there's no doubt, having spoken to the Kiev chief of police, that they are mounting a dossier which they intend to put forward to the International Criminal Court in The Hague for them to investigate potential war crimes. But many of the Ukrainians we're speaking to feel very strongly that there are crimes against humanity and war crimes being committed on a daily basis here, and certainly those inside the capital are feeling much more nervous but incredibly defiant every day, throughout the day. They're not wasting any time by building up barricades and trying to reinforce the capital. But the Russian military and the advance of the Russian military is edging ever closer to the centre.
OK, Alex, just before I let you go, give me the geography of where you are again, for viewers obviously tuning our way all the time. Where are you and what's happened?
Sure. Sure, we're in the north of the city. We're only 7 miles from the centre. It's a big, sprawling city. And if you take the centre to be, for instance, where the St. Sophia Cathedral is, say, we're 7 miles north of that. So really a hop, skip and a jump. We're in the city area, if you like. Kiev also has a wider region, like Greater London has. We're inside that wider region, so we're 7 miles from the centre, due north. It's a district called Obolon. We're really right in, this is residential area. This is a huge residential block. It's right next to a school and playing fields. There's no way anyone could have mistook this for a military target.
As you go through checkpoints armed by the military, but also people taking the defence of their own communities into their own hands. These guys have got themselves some weapons. They've put some tyres, some lumps of concrete that they've been able to get, and this road leads to their village and their community, and they say they're determined to protect themselves as the Russian military come through here. Odessa behind us has been preparing itself for whatever might come. The UK's defence department said that there is evidence to suggest that the Russian Navy are carrying out a sort of distant observation of this coast now, which would suggest that they are planning some kind of assault on Odessa similar to the one we've seen in Mykolaiv. We're not quite sure what we'll see when we go up this road this morning, but we know from reports that it has been heavily shelled and thousands of people are now trying to leave that port city. In the last hour here, peace talks have begun once again between Ukraine and Russia. They're not in person, they're via video call, and everybody hopes that there can be some common ground found that might lead to some kind of slowdown of this conflict. But when we go further up this road and we end up near Mykolaiv, we'll be able to see a bit more for ourselves the scale of the damage there. You were just talking with Alex Crawford there about that dreadful news that came from Mariupol, that maternity hospital. We do have some more information on that. That image which circulated around the world of that pregnant woman being stretchered away from the rubble of that maternity hospital after it was struck by Russian forces was really a very powerful image, and we know that that lady was taken to a hospital and surgeons tried very hard to save her. They were resuscitating her for about 30 minutes and then they told the Associated Press that she died, and they tried a cesarean section and the baby died as well. That is tragic news, and the Russians have always said that there were no women and children at this maternity hospital, that it was actually a base for some militia, defensive militia, and this news now proof that women and children were there and that there were fatalities out of that. So here, people defending their own communities, and as we go further up the road, we should see more for ourselves, the damage caused to another key city, Mykolaiv, just to the east of here, Kay.
Okay.